Hi guys, I am coming to you from Denmark today. In fact, not only am I coming to you from Denmark, I am coming to you only hours before I go home, which is awesome. I've had an epic week though, so I thought I'd tell you about what I've done this week because it was pretty insane. So last week when I did this, I was in London, I was at the NDC event, and everything went out a little bit late, time zones, busy, etc, etc. Then I went over to Oslo on Saturday. So my mate Scott Helm and I were going to Oslo in order to do another NDC event, some more training and things. So we went over on Saturday, and this time of year Oslo is epic. Like there's just snow everywhere, super cold. So on Sunday we went out sledding, or as they say in Norway, sledging. Now, if anyone's listening and they're Australian, they'll know that sledging means something totally different. That's what you do in the cricket, where you talk about insulting things to the other team in order to put them off their game. So every time someone said they wanted to go sledging, I kind of took it a bit wrong. But be that as it may, we went up the mountain, and it was just this epically beautiful day, like blue sky, snow everywhere, probably about, what was it, -5 Celsius. So not super cold, but we, we get these sleds. And I'm thinking, all right, it's going to be like, there'll be like a course and you'll go down and there'll be a room and someone else will come down, all will be very organized. And it was like Mad Max on ice. It was insane. Like everyone goes down this thing at the same time, and you get these icy spots where you just have zero control, and there's adults crashing into kids, and there's carnage and children crying, and it was actually kind of nuts. Like it was good fun. Don't get me wrong, we did it multiple times. But Scott and I were saying, if this was like in the UK or Australia, it'd be like, no, someone might get hurt, get sued. So that's one of the nice things about going to Norway. There's always this sort of very kind of liberal attitude to that. It's like, if you're going to do this, just be sensible, try not to get hurt, good luck, go for it. So we did that for a day, which was awesome. Then on Monday and Tuesday, both Scott and I had workshops at the NDC security event in Oslo. So that was a really good event. I did the same workshop, the same Hack Yourself First thing as I'd done in London the week before. Same thing I've done 50 other times, but it went really well. So we're very happy with that. As we started to get through the week, things started to thaw out. So it was getting a little bit warmer. And in my experience, Oslo is sort of the place, or the sort of place where when it's super cold and wintry, it's awesome. And when it's sunny and warm, it's awesome. And then there's this big bit in between where things just get kind of hairy. So it was getting super slushy everywhere, which was not so great. Getting really icy too, because it would slush up during the day and then just freeze over at night. And I gotta say, it was kind of hilarious watching people try to walk around. Even local people were falling on their asses, which was kind of, maybe you shouldn't laugh, but yeah. Now, I also fell on my ass as well, just for fairness, and I am still fielding an injury, I think, on my elbow after putting that into the concrete, which was not a good look. So certainly Oslo took a little bit of a toll. But we did that. On Wednesday, we had the NDC Security Day, where I did a talk, Scott did a talk, a bunch of other speakers did some talks as well. And we wrapped up then, and I headed off to Denmark. So I got to Denmark on Wednesday night. Thursday, I spent a day doing talks for a company in another part of Denmark, a little bit further up. Yesterday, I'm trying to get my days right because it all becomes a blur. Yesterday on Friday, I went and saw Lego in the morning, which was totally awesome because of all the brands that we sort of have in our minds since very young ages. I think Lego is probably the one that just lasts forever. So that is an epic brand. I do have bags of Lego over there for the children, so I'm not going home empty-handed. They will be very happy. So that went really well. And then I came over to Copenhagen. So Lego is in a place called Billund. And in my mind, in like my Australian mind where everything is massive, I was like, oh, Denmark is just a little place. Like I'll go and do this Lego thing in the morning, and then I'll go and do my afternoon thing in Copenhagen. No problems. Without realizing it was a 3-hour drive. So a very generous Twitter follower took me for a drive. So we had a nice drive from Billund over to Copenhagen and a good chat, which is great. And it continues my run of everyone I meet via Twitter in real life being awesome people. So thank you. That's very nice. It's so fun. None of them have been axe murderers, which is good. So I went to Microsoft yesterday afternoon in Copenhagen for a user group, and it was the biggest user group they've ever had. We just absolutely packed the place out, which was awesome. And what a lot of people didn't know about yesterday is that yesterday was Australia Day, 26th of Jan every year. So I get to Microsoft, and they've got these absolutely everywhere, which was totally awesome. And everyone in the crowd had them, and I tweeted a photo with lots of people waving flags yesterday. Did my talk, and it was just a really, really nice way to finish off the event, and finish off the trip. And it was an open community event that loads of people came to. And I had lots of talks with people afterwards as well, including a 13-year-old kid who came along and then asked some questions. And that was totally cool to see someone sort of getting into everything at that age. So I'm trying to hook him up with some Pluralsight, because that's exactly the sorts of people we want building our software, or learning how to build our software. So that was really cool. And then I went out last night and ate good food and drank good beer, and now I am done. So it has been a very, very crazy week, and I've got a couple of hours before I've got to head over to the airport and then do a very long flight home. Unfortunately, I don't know how it worked out this way, but I've got to go from Copenhagen to Dubai, which is like 7-something hours, and then Dubai to Singapore, which is like 7-something hours, and then Singapore to home, which is like 7-something hours. And eventually I'll get home to bed at, I think, 2:30 a.m. or something on Monday, which is pretty not fun, but you know, hey, it's the end of the trip. I guess I can crash out for a few days. So anyway, that's all the travel stuff. I want to talk about the blog post I wrote this week, because that one is actually particularly important, and it is about the new Pluralsight series we're doing. Now, I have mentioned this in a weekly update before, but I didn't actually get around to writing it and explaining it properly until just this week. So the blog post, I'm going to sort of check some of my notes here as well, because I want to make sure I hit a few points. The blog post is on this new series we're doing called Creating a Security-Centric Culture. And I want to explain why we're doing this first, and then I'll tell you some of the things in it. When I was in Salt Lake City for the Pluralsight Live event in September, I did a bunch of customer meetings. And this is basically Pluralsight customers who would like to talk about cyber things. And, you know, we sit down and we have some coffee for an hour and sort of chat about what's important to them. And they have all sorts of interesting questions. And I saw 3 different Pluralsight customers then, and every single one of them asked the same question, and it really sort of resonated with me. And the question was, how do we actually create a culture of security? And what they're trying to say is that we have a huge amount of hard skill stuff on Pluralsight. I mean, I've got a 5.5-hour SQL injection course, just 5.5 hours on the nuts and bolts and mechanics of SQL injection. We've got loads of stuff on every other topic you can imagine. And that is great. And people can sit down and learn that and hopefully change the way that they build software. But what these companies were asking is, how do we make sure that we go beyond just sitting there and going through the motions? So how do we get people endorsed in the value of it? How do we get people thinking security first? Not just when they build systems, but when they use systems as well. And I thought this was a really interesting observation on its own, and then to hear it resonated multiple times over from different people. So what we wanted to do with Pluralsight is start creating a series where we could talk about this in a way that is consumable by every level of the organization, so from those building systems all the way up to C-suite sort of execs. So I want to create material that was consumable by all of them, so it had to be relatively mid sort of level. We don't want nuts and bolts, we don't want anything too airy and fairy and fluffy. We want something actionable. We want to make it consumable within a short period of time, so let's keep it well under an hour. And we want to keep a regular cadence of this going. And when we're sort of having this discussion, we're sort of saying, okay, well, we could talk about things that are topical, but the problem is when you talk about something that's topical in a course, it's relevant for that period of time, and then it quickly goes off the edge. I did a shell shock bash bug course years ago when that was a thing. And it's like massive interest, and then it goes down because everyone's patched and they move on. So we wanted things that were a little bit more evergreen than that. So we decided to focus on aspects of culture which we can use over longer periods of time. So we want to make sure that someone can come back and watch this course 2 years from now, and it's just as relevant then as what it is today. So, excuse me, I've been doing a lot of talking the last 2 weeks. Let's talk about what's actually in this course. And actually, last thing before that, this course, there's two important things. This course is basically like this. It's me looking at you. And that is very, very different for a Pluralsight course, because most Pluralsight courses are screencasts. And then I sit there and edit and edit and edit for ages until I create the course. Exception being, we do a lot of play-by-plays where there's two people effectively interviewing each other and a film crew in a carefully staged room. The fact that we're doing these security culture courses like this is really, really different for Pluralsight. And it wasn't the original plan. It was only as we were talking about it where we went, you know what, this medium where you actually get some personality and some character actually works a lot better for when we're talking about culture. And frankly, this is largely off the back of me doing these videos as well, which is really cool because I'm very happy with the outcome, and I don't think we would be doing the Pluralsight videos the way they are were it not for me doing these weekly update videos. So that was one thing. The other thing that's really important is all of this is free. So there is no cost whatsoever to watch this stuff. And that is really different for a brand new Pluralsight course. Every now and then something from a while ago goes free and you can go and watch it. My Hack Yourself First course is still free. So that's great, but this one is just free from day one. So as soon as it hits, everyone can go and get it. No credit cards, none of this other stuff that's going to lock you in and force you to buy Pluralsight things. It's going to give everyone the same opportunity to watch the material. So I'm really, really happy about that because I would like to see us making culture changes as broadly as we possibly can. Speaking of which, let me talk about the points that I'm covering here when I talk about culture. And first of all, I talk about understanding your audience. And this is really important because what I mean by this is that we very often see material and security training content directed at, say, software developers prepared by security professionals. And security professionals can be exceptionally good at what they do, but it is a very different world to the dev folks over here. And most of what I do today is based off the experiences, where are we? The experiences that I had working for Pfizer, looking after application development there, where we had app teams and security teams. And you would constantly see the security teams speaking languages that the development teams didn't understand. And then you'd see the development teams trying to do things that the security people didn't understand. And this made for huge amounts of friction. And I see it all the time when I go into companies for training now, and when I have workshops, and I tell this same story about the friction. And there's just a whole bunch of people going, yep, this is the problem we have. So knowing the audience is really important because this helps you target the material correctly. So what I'm saying out of this is make sure you get content which is targeted at the demographic that you're working with. So obviously we have a lot of that in Pluralsight. It does clearly play to that objective, but that's a really important thing if you actually want to make cultural changes, because otherwise you start getting people feeling like they're still in this standoffish thing. This security people have come down from a mountain with their decree that I don't understand. Let's avoid that stuff. So that's one. I also talk about don't tell, show. And what we're talking about here is give people the opportunity to experience security firsthand. So what I mean by that, and I have an example actually of a still from the video in the blog post where I'm holding a Wi-Fi pineapple. You know the really freaky thing, for those of you listening and not watching, that was my Apple Watch. Holy crap. Okay, I'm going to tell you what my Apple Watch just said because this has been doing weird shit the whole time I've been away. Keeping in mind, Siri can't understand Australian. So we have a lot of that parasite does clearly play today, but that's really important thing if you actually want to make you start getting people feeling like this still understand if 15 people have come down from the mountain with the decree, understand what I want to talk about that I don't, and it's disappeared. This is the brave new world. Personal assistance, what could go wrong? And you know, I'm going to do what I've constantly done in workshops this week, which is take the damn Apple Watch off because it's starting to drive me nuts. Okay, so the other bit here was around don't tell, show, and I was talking about things like the Wi-Fi pineapple. And what I mean by this is that when we teach people about, say, HTTPS, we say there could be a man in the middle. You've got a HTTPS. Otherwise, you could have confidentiality and integrity and authenticity problems. And people go, that's very nice. That sounds very hypothetical. They have never seen it in action. And something like the Wi-Fi pineapple allows them to see that. It's like, hey, look, here's a device. Let's capture some devices or capture some other, say, mobile phones, route them through here and look at the traffic. Now here's what we can do if we modify the traffic, if we inject captive portals and things like that into HTTP requests. Watch what happens if we try to do it with HTTPS. Oh, amazing, it doesn't work. Things like SQL Map, getting people to use SQL Map to practice SQL injection. Now, this is not to take developers and turn them into penetration testers. This is to give developers the opportunity to see what goes wrong firsthand. Get data out of a system and light bulbs go off. Just tell them to parameterize their SQL statements and it just does not hit the same way. So I think that's really important. That's been a cornerstone of all of my talks and training and blog posts and courses and things for years. So that's really massively important. Now, I've also said we've got to learn by example. And what I mean by that is that we've got to look at precedents in the industry. And people need to see, sort of following on from the previous point, that these things are not hypothetical. So here's where they have gone wrong before. Here's what happened in this case or that case. And we have endless precedents that we can use. Off the top of my head, some of the things I talk about when we look at, say, password hashing, people say, oh, you know, should you just put some sort of constant pepper in there, and then you sort of store the pepper, so the pepper would be like a random string. Then you store the random string somewhere on the web server. Then if someone gets your data, it's okay because they don't have this other hidden string. And then you say, well, let's look at Ashley Madison and Sony Pictures and so many other incidents where the entire ecosystem got owned. Database, web application, emails of the company execs. You know, there's a great example of where that does not help you at all, and we need to be resilient to that sort of scenario. But we have to make it clear that these things have happened. They're not precedents. And I will regularly bring up the news stories when I'm in my workshops and go, there's the incident, there's your precedent. And again, in terms of culture, we're trying to make this stick beyond just teaching a technical lesson. We're trying to get people emotionally endorsed into the importance of security. All right, so there's another one here that I have seen a number of companies that I've done training for do, and it's creating security champions. And the premise of a security champion is, let's say you have 100 people in your software development team, and there's developers and DBAs and QA people and people of all sorts of different roles. What some of these organizations have done is they've said, look, there are 3 people, for argument's sake, within this group that are really getting into this. You know, they're really enjoying the security things. They have an aptitude for it. They're going above and beyond everyone else. Let's make these folks champions. And the idea of champions is that they start becoming the advocates. So they start doing things like internal training. And maybe it's just basic stuff. Maybe they bring that Wi-Fi pineapple to lunch one day and go, hey guys, check this out. We start to give them other opportunities as well. So do they get a bit more training? Do they get to go to a security conference somewhere? You know, build them up. There's the opportunity to start actually building that into their role, into their title, into their incentives, into their objectives. And that's a really positive thing because you start to sort of permeate within teams as opposed to just having someone like myself come in, talk to everyone for a couple of days and then disappear. It really, really sticks when there are champions that drive this. So that's awesome. Definitely look at the champion thing. The other one that I've added in here, which I think works really, really well, is internal bug bounties. And the premise here is get the people within your organization, the people that you trust, to try and find flaws in your own software. Now, this is not like internal bug bounties, like start paying thousands of dollars for bugs, because you could see how that might go wrong if you actually have control over the bugs in the software in the first place. But There are other ways of incentivizing people, whether that be very, very small monetary incentives, whether that be leaderboards or halls of fame or badges or just recognition. But get the people inside the organization to start actively looking for flaws and have some mechanism of reporting and triaging and then obviously fixing the things. So that's another one that I think works really well. And the final one that I've got in here is to lead by example. And I think this is enormously important from a culture perspective. And what I mean by this is that whoever is at the top of the chain in the organization, say it's the CEO, they need to be demonstrating that they fully understand and support this push towards a secure environment. If they're turning up at the office and walking around the security gate because they're important, that's not doing that. If they're giving their secretary their password so that they can log into the account and access emails and things, that's not doing that. We've had this argument. That was the British politician thing. There are better ways of doing this. We want to see these people living and breathing the security mantra. And this doesn't mean big changes to the way they work, but it might mean things like, does the CEO have a password manager? Do people observe the CEO or the CISO or the manager or whoever it is? Do they observe them practicing good security hygiene? Now, we know what it looks like when people have bad security hygiene. You know, we see them using very short passwords. We see them circumventing security controls because it's easy. So we have to try and get people representing this from the top of the organization down. I think that's massively important, and frankly, that goes well beyond just security. You know, you've probably been in organizations before where those who had a certain degree of power or stature managed to circumvent all sorts of controls that everyone else was subject to, and you have a sense of bitterness and frankly despair when you see that happen. So that's all really important. Right, so that is out there now. I'm going to link to that. The first one I think is about 54 minutes. Originally I was aiming for about 45 minutes, but I got talking and went on a little bit longer. We will have another one out in April, and we'll have one out every quarter after that for the foreseeable future as well. Okay, so that's that. Now, last thing is sponsoring my blog this week is LastPass. And many of you will already know LastPass. They are one of the big password managers out there. They've been around for a long time, and they make a fundamental difference to your online security. Now, I want to talk about a couple of things here, and I'm going to get one thing out of the way first. I had someone tweet me yesterday. They're like, so I was interested in buying LastPass, and then I saw that you were sponsored by them this week, and then I started to think that you're incentivized to say that you should just go and get LastPass. It's like, this is not how any of it works. So I've been recommending a combination of LastPass and 1Password for years. And there are many, many examples where I've said, go and get a good password manager like LastPass. And then much later on, they've come along and done the sponsorship thing. And incidentally, there is no click-throughs, there is no sort of eCPM or incentivization for how many people go and buy LastPass. The message goes up there and it gets exposure. Now, let's talk about this password manager thing again as well, because this is like really, really important, and it still blows me away how many people still can't get this right. Probably shouldn't, but we'll come back to that. You've got to have some form of password management strategy that isn't your brain. I actually tweeted something about, I think it might have been about LastPass the other day, because I put out one tweet during the week to say who's sponsoring me. And someone replied along the lines of, your brain is the best mechanism for storing password managers because it can't be compromised. And I'm thinking to the person, have you ever been drunk, or have you ever been socially engineered, or have you ever had any other circumstance where you've been tricked into doing something? Because your brain is a terrible password manager. It has massive integrity problems. It has no reliable backup strategy. It's subject to all sorts of external influences, both of the liquid and the human type. Like, your brain is the last place you want to be putting secrets. And it's also subject to easy recollection under duress as well. You just keep bashing someone with that hammer until they give you the password, hypothetically. So your brain is not where you want this stuff. You definitely want to have some form of centralized management. And in fact, I'm going to make two suggestions here. For people like you guys that are watching this, and for people around you who are tech savvy enough to use a password manager like LastPass, that is the best possible thing you can do to your personal security posture, bar none. and it's easy and it's cheap and it is just fantastic. If you have other people around you who are non-technical, let's say you've got elderly relatives or something like that, and they're less computer orientated, get them a password book. Some people lose their minds when I say this. People on the internet love to lose their minds. They lose their minds because they say, well, hang on a second, a password book, you mean like a physical thing that you write in? And I'm like, yeah, get one of those. And they go, but it's not even encrypted. I know it's not encrypted, but let's actually look at what's happening here. When you have people that have no password management strategy other than their brain, they're reusing passwords and they're weak. No two bones about it, like no two ways about it. That is what it is. It is a very, very bad strategy. If we can move them to a position where they have a book, and again, think that the sort of canonical example here is picture an elderly relative who wouldn't be as tech savvy as probably you and I are. Now, they go through all their important passwords, and they probably won't have a lot of them. They might have a dozen or so, and they go and make each one of them unique. Maybe they use a passphrase, and they write the passphrase in the book, and then they put the book in the drawer in their house. Your threat actor is now someone who has physical access to your house. It is no longer all the kids who get all the database dumps together and get all the usernames and passwords and hand them around. And they do so anonymously all over the world. It is someone who can literally get into your house. If they can get into your house, they're probably going to want to steal your freaking TV, not a book in a drawer. And if they do steal a book in a drawer, you'll come home one day and you'll go, oh, my window's smashed and my password book is gone. I'm going to go and change the passwords. So it's a very, very different way of looking at security. And what I like about looking at it this way is it's very pragmatic, where we're saying, rather than looking at one thing in isolation and saying, how good is this thing? Oh, it's crap because it's not encrypted. Look at it compared to where we're changing from. If we're changing from people using passwords in their mind and they're the same and they're weak, and we're going to new passwords that are strong and they're unique everywhere, that is a fantastic step forward. I would love them to go all the way to a dedicated password manager and do things in a cryptographically sound way. But if we can get them this far, then that is still a really good step forward. So I think that is it for now. I've got, what do I got? I've got just over an hour before I've got to go and head out of here and eventually head home. So I'm going to go and edit this up, and I'm going to make the most of the last bit of good up-speed bandwidth that I can get to get this video up. This is amazing. Like, I will actually be able to get this up on the internet within the space of an hour. I'm not going to have that next week, but I am going to be back in the sunshine, and I'm pretty happy about that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll come to you from home back in Australia next week.